Hey, what's up you guys, it's Caboose bringing you another Marvel Spider-Man 2 video, and today what I got for you guys here is going to be the top 5 villains that I think need to be in this game. I really wanted to think of the villains that I wanted to have in this game before I made this video, and I've gathered what I think to be a pretty solid list. So let's jump into it. Before we do so though, if you're hyped for Marvel Spider-Man 2 coming out next year, and I know you guys are excited, well then scroll down right now and hit that thumbs up button. Share your excitement with me. If you want to see some more Spider-Man 2 content here on this channel and be kept up to date with the game, I got you covered. When we get some new trailers, when we get some gameplay, and all that fun stuff, I'm going to be reacting to it, breaking it down, and showcasing it for you guys. And if that sounds good, then hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications to be immediately notified when a video goes live. And you guys know the drill. Let's start things off first off with the honorable mentions. And kicking things off with my honorable mentions, I got Beetle. Who remembers that super challenging but very rewarding and kind of awesome chase slash boss battle against the Beetle in the Ultimate Spider-Man game? I would be so down to essentially get a modernized version of that, but also considering the SSD and the lack of load times with the PS5 hardware, how cool would it be if we could have Miles showcasing some serious speed with his Venom abilities and upgrades to his traversal? This could be a great opportunity for Insomniac to show off the power of the next gen, and this chase or fight against Beetle could be a tech demo everyone refers to from then on when talking about the massive leap in technology from the PS4 to the PS5. Then also on my honorable mentions list, I have Molten Man and Hydro Man. I feel like if they were going to be in my top 5, I could really only choose one of them, and I don't think that they both edge out some of my picks in the actual top 5. That being said though, I would really like to see both of them make an appearance in Marvel Spider-Man 2, and more specifically, and you'll see more of this in my actual list, I want to see some more metahumans show up in Spider-Man 2. The first game still had a few in there with characters like Mr. Negative and Electro, but I would really like to see Insomniac go all out with the second game and show off some villains with actual superpowers instead of villains that just rely on tech. Not that that's bad, by the way, I'm just saying. And finally, rounding out my honorable mentions, I have Spot. Like I said, give me some more metahumans. Also, give me lesser known Spidey villains. Spot is truly awesome, and I think could make for an extremely unique encounter. He could be teleporting you all around the room, sometimes throwing a portal in front of you when you try to hit him, causing you to hit yourself. There's a lot of fun ideas that Insomniac will hopefully explore with Spot, and just like what they did with Mr. Negative in the first game, we'd have a ton of fresh eyes on a villain that not many people have heard of before. But now that we've got our honorable mentions out of the way, let's jump into the actual top 5. And at number 5, I got something that I think a lot of people will be surprised to hear about, and that is the Punisher. That's right, Frank Castle himself. A lot of people don't know this, but Punisher's first appearance was actually in a Spider-Man comic. He was a hitman for hire, and I believe it was Jackal who wanted him to take down Spider-Man. I think Insomniac could use this in Marvel Spider-Man 2 and have either Kraven or maybe even someone like Kingpin hire Frank to incapacitate the Spider-Man, or maybe just one of them. This would allow Kraven to get the chance to take on Spidey one-on-one, or if it was Kingpin hiring Punisher, he would hopefully want Punisher to just take out one of the Spider-Men, or both of them, I don't know. It would just be a nice way to explore and also expand upon the already established Marvel universe that Insomniac has created, and maybe inevitably lead to Frank Castle becoming an ally, as you would potentially find out that Kraven or Kingpin has some pretty sinister intentions. I'm not saying Punisher needs to be one of the main villains in the game or anything, but having his presence be felt in the same vein as Taskmaster from Spider-Man PS4 would be really cool. Then at number 4, I have Morbius. This plays into what I was saying earlier when I mentioned that I would love to see more metahuman villains show up in this game. The best part about Morbius though is that he could bring an element to this Spider-Man game that we haven't really seen in a Spider-Man game before, and that's an element of horror. I think it's the Spider-Man 3 movie game, but specifically the PS2 version, that had the right idea. Put Spider-Man, either Peter, Miles, or both, in an abandoned warehouse where they have nothing but their Spidey sense to rely on as Morbius lurks in the shadows. It'd be so eerie. Think of the Killer Croc encounter from Batman Arkham Asylum, but a little less linear. We would see our Spider-Man having to learn new skills and hone in on skills they've already mastered to take down the vampire. And speaking of learning new skills, before we jump into the top top 3, let's have a quick word from today's sponsor. Okay, so as I mentioned, today's video is sponsored by Skillshare, and what else can I say about Skillshare that you probably haven't heard already? In case you haven't heard about them though, well, let me tell you about it. So Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of different classes for you to be able to take to learn new skills or master old ones. There's a lot of inspiration here, there's a lot to get you motivated, and it's definitely a great way to kick off the new year. We just got started with 2022, so why not get started by picking up a new skill? You know, for myself, I wanted to get better at editing videos. I wanted to up the quality of the editing for my content, so I looked up on Skillshare if they had any classes for Adobe Premiere Pro, which is the main editing software that I use, and lo and behold, they had a ton of them, and I've been able to up the quality of my editing game. Unless you guys want to tell me otherwise, but I think I've been doing okay. There's no doubting, if there's a specific skill that you want to learn, Skillshare is the perfect place to get started. So head to that link in the description box below, and they're hooking it up for you guys. The first 1,000 people that click that link in the description are going to be able to get a 1-month free trial to check out Skillshare and all that they have to offer so that you can get going on your creativity. So check it out, links in the description. With all that being said, on with the video. All right, now it's time to get into the top 3 villains that I want to see in Marvel Spider-Man 2 the most. And at number 3, I have Chameleon. Funny enough, because Insomniac wanted a crap ton of world building in the first Spider-Man game, Chameleon has already canonically caused Spider-Man some trouble. There's a voice line in the first game in which Peter mentions that he hopes Chameleon wasn't impersonating him again. And I know that makes it tough for how exactly they can make this villain's inclusion feel fresh, but maybe instead of going the easy route and have him impersonating Spider-Man, they could have him impersonate someone close to Spider-Man, or better yet, impersonating Miles' Spidey. It'd also be really funny to hear J. Jonah Jameson's reaction on the podcast if he thought Spidey was actually committing crimes. Chameleon is very interesting as a Spider-Man villain because he isn't necessarily the best physical adversary for Spider-Man, but more so a psychological one. But now at number 2, my runner-up of villains that I would love to see in Marvel Spider-Man 2, I have a Sandman. I mean, come on, between Sandman and my number 1 pick that we'll get to eventually, they are villains that I feel are must-haves for Marvel Spider-Man 2. Collecting those backpacks from the first game, you'd see that Sandman is in a little vial that Peter has. So let's create some excuse for him to break out of that vial and let loose to wreak some havoc across New York City. Fighting against Sandman also provides Insomniac a great opportunity to push that PS5 tech and show off some insane visuals. Plus, I feel like there's no real way to do a boss fight against this villain wrong. That is, unless it's just another one of those dodge enough and then hit them enough. I think we need to not do that again. You can either have Sandman making several different sand weapons to throw at you, or have him turn into a giant sand monster. Hell, maybe even do both and give us the ultimate battle. I think they could also play into the villain not by choice trope with this character, which we've seen a lot in Spider-Man media. The idea that he's become this abomination, or if they want to borrow from the Raimi films, having Sandman fighting to protect a loved one would be a really compelling narrative. It just raises the stakes. I liked that in the first game that Insomniac kind of dabbled with the concept of Spider-Man facing off against giant foes when you were in that little Mr. Negative hallucination and you saw that there was the massive demon that you had to take down. But I would love if in Marvel Spider-Man 2 there was an actual villain that can get that big, that we'd have to use our smarts and our wits to take him down. But finally, at number 1, and this is a no-brainer, aside from villains that I think I want to save for the next game and that I hope are the main villains of the next game, this is a villain that I think a ton of people are gonna have at their number 1 spot, or in general have on their list. And that's right, you guessed it, at number 1 for the top 5 villains that I think need to be in Marvel Spider-Man 2 the most, I have Big Wheel. I mean, come on, this villain needs his time to shine. What do you mean nobody likes Big Wheel? He's like one of the most iconic Spider-Man villains. What are you telling me about how nobody likes Big Wheel? I'm sure everyone's going to be in the comments like, hey, Caboose, I'm so glad you picked Big Wheel. That's my favorite Spider-Man villain. All right, fine, I'll pick someone else. Okay, my actual number 1 is Mysterio. Like I said, a no-brainer, and I'm positive that pretty much everyone is gonna have this character on their list, and most people will have Mysterio at their number 1 spot. And rightfully so. How could you not? I remember playing through the first Scorpion encounter in Spider-Man PS4 when he stings you and you start to hallucinate. When I was playing through it, all I could think about is how cool would it be to have something like this, but with us facing off against Mysterio. I mean, the illusions would be dialed up to 11, and it'd be a visual masterpiece on that sweet PS5 hardware. I know Spider-Man has already canonically gone up against Mysterio, considering the Halloween mission from Spider-Man PS4, and some people might use that as a reason as to why he shouldn't be in this game, but I think that would be a massive missed opportunity. So Insomniac, do the right thing here. How crazy would it be to play through that whole Mysterio sequence from Spider-Man Far From Home, but with the controller in our hands, having the DualSense vibrations going crazy? There is so much that could be done here. You're leaving money on the floor by not including Mysterio in this game. And if he's not in Marvel Spider-Man 2, then he damn well better be in the potential and most likely to happen Marvel Spider-Man 3, okay? And there you have it. The top 5 villains I think need to be in this game the most. But the best part about doing videos like this is that my list is not definitive. You guys can go to the comments right now and sound off which your thoughts and let me know what villains you want to see in the next Spider-Man game the most. Of course, if you enjoyed today's video, if you enjoyed my list, if you could consider leaving a like rating on the video, it would show your support and I would really appreciate it. I'm Caboose, and you can click on screen to make your way to one of the other videos on the channel, or you can click my logo to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter or join my Discord. Those links are in the description. Drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a comment if you have an opinion, and subscribe if you're new. See you guys later.